Chapter 8 of Management, an Integrated Approach, Organizational Culture, Part 5, Culture and Crucial Moments. While understanding an organization's culture is generally very important, there are a few times in an individual's career when it becomes even more critical, such as when someone joins a new organization or takes charge of a new team in an organization. Culture is particularly important to understand in the merger and acquisition process. One study of mergers identified that 90% of them never live up to their expectations. The culprit: a clash of corporate cultures between the merging organizations. Evaluating culture in mergers and acquisitions. When one company acquires another, the acquiring company obtains the other's resources, its processes, and its business model, with the priorities embedded therein. While the resources are easily observable, the company's processes and business model are largely embedded in the unwritten, unarticulated assumptions that make up the group's culture. Before an acquisition takes place, managers of acquiring companies must understand their own company's culture, including its strengths and weaknesses. They must also understand the culture of the company that is to be acquired. Where are the similarities and differences? What needs to change? How do we ensure that we maximize the value of both cultures? Which elements of which culture will we retain and which elements will we let go? In extreme cases, the end result of the incorporation of one company into another is that the culture of the acquired company gets completely replaced by the culture of the acquiring firm, or, in some rare cases, the acquired firm's culture becomes the dominant culture of the new entity. The most challenging instances are those where the aspired goal is to truly merge the two cultures into a new one. In this instance, leaders must carefully assess which elements of each organization's culture to incorporate into the new culture, and then proceed to do it in a deliberate and thoughtful way. Regardless of which approach to culture is followed, it is important to make sure that the two entities have broadly compatible cultures such that employees of both organizations can be brought together under a common banner. In its early years, Cisco was one of the most prolific acquirers in the technology sector. It was successful in acquiring companies by carefully ensuring that the companies it acquired fit the fabric of its culture. When the fit was not as strong as anticipated, Cisco was not apologetic about walking away from an attractive target. In most instances, Cisco was clear that the acquired entity had to embrace the Cisco way. This forcible process can be feasible when the acquired company is small and has a less developed culture. When the acquired company is bigger or when a key part of the company's value is embedded in its culture, it is not always feasible or advisable to force such integration. By doing so, the acquirer often squanders a key value component. In essence, it can forfeit the very reason the company was valuable to begin with. Chapter Summary: Learning Objectives. Learning Objective 1. Explain the ways in which culture provides the framework and foundation for how work is accomplished and what activities and practices are valued in a firm. An organization's culture provides the parameters by which individuals interact and work. Anyone joining a new firm needs to understand what behaviors and activities are rewarded or punished, what conduct is expected, and how work is completed. Some elements of an organization's culture are obvious: its physical layout and climate, its focus on customer service, or its commitment to innovation, for instance. Other aspects of an organization's culture are less obvious, including the unstated way in which employees interact with and solve problems. Learning Objective 2. Explain how a firm's culture can impact organizational performance. Culture can be a strong driver of performance. Companies such as Cisco and Ritz-Carlton have built cultures based on customer advocacy and support. Google and 3M have built cultures that value and reinforce innovation. In many ways, their cultures have been key drivers of their successes. However, culture can be a double-edged sword. Given its embedded nature, it is often difficult to change. Companies that have strongly entrenched cultures often have more difficulty adapting to environmental changes. In these cases, new leadership is often required. Learning Objective 3. Differentiate between the three levels of culture: 1. Artifacts, 2. Beliefs and values, and 3. Assumptions. The three levels of culture include: 1. Artifacts. What is visible; 2. Beliefs and values. What is known by members of the organization; and 3. Assumptions. What is embedded in and unique to a firm. Businesses that try to copy another company's culture without fully understanding its hidden elements often fail. They can replicate the visible aspects of the culture, but not the underlying processes. Learning Objective 4, discuss the ways in which culture is developed, influenced, and socialized in a firm. Culture arises as an organization develops a shared concept of how work should be accomplished and how individuals should interact with each other. An organization's culture is often initially influenced by the actions, beliefs, and assumptions of the founder. Over time, culture becomes more embedded in the organization through a variety of reinforcing mechanisms such as formal statements and creeds, the design of physical space, coaching and mentoring by senior leaders, and reward systems. Learning Objective 5, explain the role that culture plays when a firm is acquired. Paying attention to culture is particularly important when a firm is acquired or when two firms merge. If the two firms have similar cultures, there is a greater likelihood that there will be less disruption as the firms outline post-merger processes and procedures. When the culture of one firm differs dramatically from another firm, it can be very hard to combine processes and procedures, especially when both firms are of similar size. Sometimes, the acquired firm is allowed to operate independently to enable the combined entity to obtain the greatest possible advantage. In most cases, one culture tends to become dominant and influences the overall firm. Key terms: culture. Culture provides employees with a roadmap and a set of rules for how work gets done and how people interact in a company. Subcultures. Subcultures are cultures that form around geographic or organizational units in a company. Artifacts. Artifacts are visible organizational structures, processes, and languages. Beliefs and values. The meanings that members of an organization attach to artifacts. Assumption. A behavior that stemmed from a belief held by a group that is no longer visible, but has become deeply embedded in the organization. Socialization. The process of understanding how work gets done and how individuals should interact in an organization. Organizational commitment. The desired end result of socialization whereby employees become commit-led to the organization and its goals. Discussion questions. If an organization seeks to foster a culture of risk-taking, creativity, and innovation, what organizational design choices should they make? How should they think about rewards and reinforcements? If an organization seeks to foster a culture of efficiency and low cost, what design elements should they embrace? Consider Southwest Airlines. They have been able to build a fun, supportive culture while remaining fiscally conservative and cost-efficient. How are they able to build this type of culture? Why do companies seek to build organizational commitment from employees? What is the downside to a compliance-based culture?